Hi, I'm Simon, the CEO of Funded Trading Plus, and today I'm answering questions with Jamie, our Chief Strategy Officer, and the theme is a bit more personal.
All the programs offered to you here at Funded Trading Plus operate in a simulated environment using virtual funds. There's no real or regulated capital traded in the markets. And any payouts are calculated from simulated profits in line with our program's terms and conditions.
How old were you when you first got into trading?
How old was I when I first got into trading? It was in 2010, so I'd have been in my late 20s when I first got into trading. Yeah, sort of 26. I bought the Financial Times Guide to Investment, which is a really good book, actually. But there was a small section in it about leveraged derivatives, about CFDs and spread betting, which is tax-free in the UK. And that started the interest on it.
Yeah, I remember that as well. So I remember that point because, you and I go back nearly 30 years. But I remember exactly when it was and go around to your house and seeing loads of books with titles that I didn't really understand, like The Way of the Turtle and other books, and just looking through the shelf and thinking, okay, he's really kind of getting into this. Like at that point, I didn't actually realize.
What's the latest fad? What's this
Yeah.
crap? What's this crap he's into now?
Yeah, it was like a naked trading strategy as well.
The naked trader, Robbie Burns, was it, or whatever his name was, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I remember that.
Where did you grow up and how did that shape who you are today?
So I grew up in a small fish food town called Grimsby, which is on the east coast of the United Kingdom, and it used to be the biggest fishing port in the world. It's not anymore.
No, it's not. And also, they changed the name from a fish food town to a seafood town, is what they did. So yeah, it was really famous for its fishing industry. And I don't know if a lot of people know this. They probably wouldn't, but you and I grew up in the same town. We've known one another since school.
How did it shape us?
How did it shape us? Well, obviously, you growing up in that town, meeting me, turned you into the successful individual that you are today.
It's not so much the town, though. But yeah, no, that's arguably true. I'm not sure how it shaped me, really. I think it's a nice, pleasant sort of area to have grown up in, where there's a bit of space. It's not too built up. It's not too expensive. There's a reasonable amount of opportunities. There's countryside. So I think in terms of having a good upbringing, good schools and things like that, I think it's just a sort of boring reality of that, really.
Yeah, for sure. It does have like that grittier side against it. You're just surrounded by people who are working hard. And I think that makes a difference as well, especially when you're looking in business, which is not always linear success, actually being able to sort of grown up around people working really hard. I think actually that does shape who you are as well, because it's same for Funded Trading Plus. It's not just a constant linear success. There are difficult periods in any business, aren't there? And I think actually just having that underpinning background, and I think all of the people who are part of the team, everyone knows how to work hard and really try and dig in and do the best for our traders as well. So I think it does have an impact. I think anyway.
Well, the north of England is also better than the south for anyone who is not from the UK watching this.
What does a normal day-to-day look like for you?
Normal day-to-day for me. So I generally get up and then I'm looking at the charts. There's once a trader, always a trader. I'm interested to see what the markets have done. So I'll go through sort of the big pairs, the indices. I'll look at some macroeconomic news as well, because that could potentially affect us as well. And then it's just a case of what's happening in terms of the funded trading space. We have a morning briefing. We'll look at all the team, who's here, who's not here. Are there any risk issues? Are there any platform issues? All this technical sort of stuff and things like that. That's sort of the day-to-day running. And then my day after that's sort of fixed is quite variable. Sort of early in the week, we'll have quite a lot of strategic meetings and structure around sort of back-end business things. And then the sort of later in my week, I do quite a lot of interviews, stuff like this. I might fly somewhere or travel somewhere to meet some partners, because I do a lot of partnership and legal work for Funded Trading Plus. So I could be all around the world relatively quickly, which if you follow my X, you'll see that I travel quite a lot. A lot of it is work related. So I like having that sort of the sort of structure and familiarity that anchors me back to my original trading, but also, knowing keeping on top of the business. So I'll get stressed if I don't feel like I know everything that's going on. But also then sort of unpredictable, a bit of traveling, a bit of spontaneity. So I think I'm very happy with how that's turned out for me. How about you?
No, for sure. And actually, it makes you almost sound busy, Simon. Like
it was good, that wasn't it? My brain was working so hard there.
Yeah, no, but it's fair enough. Actually, when you lay it out like that, actually, it all pieces together of just what it takes to run a company and be the face of a company like Funded Trading Plus. I think you undersell the amount of community side of it, because actually you're really active on Discord, really active on your X channel. That's you've recently
just emails.
And emails, yeah, exactly that. And there's a lot there. I think for me, my focus slightly different. So I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Funded Trading Plus. I'm looking at those longer term projects and running and making sure that everything's going on track and actually and the team are holding me to account for delivering those things. I think it varies day to day. It's quite an interesting role, but definitely it's kind of more about the underpinning kind of gears and machinery of the business that I'm looking at and just making sure the team are able to kind of achieve what they need to do as well. So a slightly different perspective on that, but absolutely, I think both of us have varied and interesting days.
You're like the glue that brings everything together.
Oh, nice.
You like that one? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deep one from Noor. What's the biggest mistake you've made in life? Maybe not just in trading.
Probably the biggest mistake is actually in trading. I think I've been pretty fortunate in my career. I've worked ever since I was 16. I had a career that I enjoyed when I was a bit younger and then was able to pivot into a serious business when I was older. So I'm very happy with that side of my life. But I got overconfident when I started trading in 2000, sort of 10, 11. I ended up trading the DAX 30 as it was now. It's now 40 companies as it was there. And I kept trading and this little sinister sort of thing kept sort of creeping in where the market was going against me, but I was holding a trade and adding to it and it came back and it came back and it came back.
And to catch a falling knife.
It was, yeah, the other way around, it's flying. But but it was, I remember probably both ways to be fair, but it kept coming back. So the market was range bound. So it was a huge lesson about trading and discipline. I never made that mistake again. Sat at the restaurant with someone I used to trade with, Mark, and we were eating food and I just knew it was going against me until I eventually got margin called. And that was when you didn't need as much margin as you do now post ESMA, but that was a long time ago and it was a big painful lesson. I don't know any successful trader who's not done something that stupid.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a good lesson for all really. But yeah, I remember that as well. Obviously, you and I go back some years. I remember that and discussing and debriefing it with you, and it sounded rough. Yeah, I mean, for me, I can keep it in trading. I remember talking to you about getting into some individual stocks essentially, and talking to you about Nvidia. And I'd been doing a load of reading about Nvidia before it exploded, and I was putting that to you as some like trade ideas and things like that. And you're like, I just do the.
And I was dismissive.
You were dismissive of that, and I had conviction, but I was like, actually, Simon, out of the two of us, actually knows far more about trading than I do. So I'll actually hold on to my capital. I won't do it myself. And you were in on the Nasdaq, weren't you? And you were just like, I'll just follow the index. It seems to be tracking. And then Nvidia did what it did, and that was a big regret for me. And it always is in hindsight if you do it. But I had so much conviction because I'd done all of the work, and then I just like let it go. So I regret not getting in on.
Yeah, maybe I could have approached that differently. But I was very much smooth it over the whole industry, diversification. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Individual stock. I mean, the only individual stocks I've really ever done are Tesla. But no, Nvidia would have been a banger, particularly when crypto came along and the world's graphics cards were required to do useless things.
No, and obviously we don't provide any financial advice, and please don't take anything that I'm saying here as advice. But that was one where I had done a lot of reading.
It's like the opposite, isn't it? I regret something I did. You regret something I didn't. Without getting into the psychology of trading, regret is more painful for an action or an omission. I can't remember. There was a different magnitude.
I think you feel a real loss.
Yeah,
greater than an omission. I think you certainly feel losses psychologically. You feel them more than a gain. So the feeling, so that the little bit of dopamine you get when you get a win, is smaller than the equivalent loss.
2 to 1, isn't it? I think the magnitude's about 2 to 1. Yeah, so, if I remember my behavioural psychology.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Interesting question. Thanks, Noor.
How do you switch off from work?
I've started reading again. I read fiction when I was like sort of 18. 19 years old, and I've not really read fiction for a long time.
Are you back reading Orwell?
Yeah, we're in Burmese days at the moment.
We're getting you a big omnibus of George Orwell.
You did. I've lost that, so I've got another big one. But yeah, it's like
you lost it.
I think so.
Wow.
Sorry.
I think I saved up. This was.
Did you get it for my 21st or something?
Yeah, I think it was, and it was a real big old book of his collected works, George Orwell's collected.
Burmese Days, which is about British imperialism and his experiences in Burma, that's now called Myanmar, of course. But I think it's just because you have to obviously visualize all the imagery and things like that, so it makes your brain switch off. Whereas I've found pretty terribly that when I'm even watching a film or something, can be tempted to be on a phone or thinking about something. So that's really good for me. I'm big into EDM, so I travel around the world.
So people that don't know and have got better taste, that's electronic dance music.
Yeah, I used to call it dance music, but all the cool kids call it EDM now. Or they might call it something else now. So I like progressive house and things. And I follow Sasha and Digweed and people around the world watching them. So that's nice to switch off. But most of the time, not switched off. Most of the time, just thinking about 24/7 and even answering emails and things on weekends and things like that. So I do value the very limited time, so I'm not thinking about it. But most of the time, I'm thinking about work or something to do with work, and that's the life they chose.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's it is fairly full on. I think for me, my lived experience slightly different. I've got 2 young children, and they tend to keep me very busy and
Angels.
enforce a switch off from work. And sometimes the two things collide, quite literally. Having the children there whilst working, and it can be hard. It can be a balance and a really, really tricky balance. But when I can, I've got so many hobbies. I've got more hobbies than I've got time. But I've recently got into 3D printing, haven't I?
You have
seen some of these things. So exploring that, I like doing that. I've got lots of hobbies, reading again.
Warhammer.
Yeah. Again, strategy gaming, those kind of things. Yeah, more hobbies than sense, more hobbies than I can probably support and sustain. But it's hard to find time for them. But just a key thing, whether it's you commit to trading, you commit to your work, you commit to whatever it is, you just have to try and find some switch off time. Otherwise, things can...
Fortnite. I do play
you
Fortnite
do.
as well. I forgot. I play
You
Fortnite.
get those fat dubs.
Yeah. I get shooting 10-year-olds and making them upset and probably getting angry. But I play with my friend, his son, and his uncle, and we play as a squad, and it's that switches off.
You get carried, don't you? Hard carried.
Oh, absolutely. My reactions these days, I'm dreadful. So it's just, but I think we're like a lot of wins. But yeah, it's good fun. Just to be, it's the social time. So that's actually quite good for switching off his gaming, I think.
Yeah, no, I enjoy gaming too when I can. Again, it's the idea of so many things I'd like to do to switch off, but actually
You got your 2 angels.
2 angels, exactly that.
If they ever see this.
Yeah, no, good question.
Final question by X319. Who do you look up to and why?
There was a couple of people. I did like Daniel Kahneman. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, although he was very, very old and it was his choice. But
A behavioural psychologist.
yeah, he sort of was a grandfather of behavioural psychology, which sort of gave me a lot of insight into how I'm making decisions financially and things like that. And like we mentioned, loss aversion, an earlier question, he discovered that. So he was fantastic reading his material and listening to him, and it just took that sort of psychology to another level.
Is he the thinking fast and slow guy?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, and I
that was a
remember-
flagship work, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you getting into that.
Yeah, 2011, I think he released that. I remember buying it.
Well, yeah, and that rubbed off on me as well. I remember then getting that book because I'd seen you reading it. I was thinking, hang on a minute, this seems quite sensible for your kind of bookshelves. And then I took that on and I got a lot out of that as well. Yeah, I think Kahneman really was I remember listening to him speak, obviously on a YouTube video rather than anything else. But yeah, really inspirational guy. I think really switched on and really changed the way that I thought about thinking.
Yeah. Warren Buffett as well. I like Warren Buffett. He's like one of the greatest investors of all time, but he's ethical and he's not a show-off. The complete opposite to the influencer dipshit lifestyle that we see today that a lot of people are interested in. He is going to give all his money away to charity once he passes away as well. So he's just, he's always wanting to invest in companies that he wants to grow and develop and see succeed. So I think he's like a good representation of capitalism.
I've always preferred Charlie over Warren.
Yeah. Charlie was good. Unfortunately, again passed away. But yeah, Charlie Munger was they were both a combo. People just buy one of their shares, wouldn't they? One of their eight shares of Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah, just to go to their investor conference. It was like a big event to watch those two speak. But I think I think they are sort of good capitalists.
Yeah, no,
rather than many bad ones that are out there.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a difficult one. Like for me, it's like look up to. I really like. So I'm into a lot of reading, into a lot of different sort of like fantasy books, and I think for me, I've spent so much time in J.R. Tolkien's world, if you like, in either books or watching films like Lord of the Rings, and just that world building that he'd managed to do, and then like look back at the time that he was doing it, just like that being a pioneer, absolutely just carving out this entire new genre almost, and just being able to kind of go and being in the UK and going to Oxford and seeing and sitting down in the place where these great things have been created. And it's like Tolkien's there with C.S. Lewis creating like, who was like the Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe and all of that. But just seeing like the extent that somebody can take an idea and then just grow it into something huge, and that effectively being like the platform that everything else goes on. So just being pioneers, I think pioneers in general, those people that take something and then create something that everything else is built upon, I think it's easy to admire and look up to that. So yeah, I'd go for that.
Yeah, thank you for watching that. I hope that gave you a bit more insight into us. If you have any further questions for me or any of my team, please do let us know and we'll answer those in a future episode.